Yeah, absolutely. So I started off as an investor myself quite young, right? So I bought my first property at the age of 19. So while friends and family were going off backpacking, I thought, look, I really want to slay this dragon nice and early. Buyers who approach their purchase with a level of clarity, certainty, and preparedness are taking advantage of the market a lot sooner than those who are taking a semi-casual approach.
Welcome to Leading and Growing Your Real Estate Business. I'm James Short, and this show dives into the real stories behind the agents and the leaders shaping our industry. No polished highlight reels, just honest conversations about what's working, what's not, and how they're building businesses that actually grow. Each episode, I sit down with someone in the trenches, top performers, rising leaders, business owners who've cracked the code and others still figuring it out. We unpack the wins, the failures, the habits, and the lessons you can put to work straight away. Before we dive in, can I ask a favor and please subscribe or follow on the platform you're listening or watching this. The more we grow, the bigger impact we can have together. And thank you. Let's get started. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. We have a rockstar legend in the house, George Cherchian, founder of James Chase Buyers Advocacy, a Sydney-based full-service buyers agency working with home buyers and property investors. George comes from a commercial real estate background, which shapes the way he approaches property strategy first. Before launching his buyers agency, he spent years developing a deep understanding of markets, risk, and decision-making, and now applies that thinking to residential property at a higher level. He's known for working collaboratively, that's a good word, collaboratively, I'll try that one, with sales agents, brokers, and advisors, and for helping clients cut through noise to make smart property decisions with strategy, clarity, and care, particularly in competitive markets. This guy is a wealth of information. I look forward to really going deep with George. He is a top guy, very sincere, very genuine, and he's been working with some of the best agents out there, helping his clients to purchase their home of their dreams. Mate, welcome to the show.
Shorty, that was a heck of an introduction. One of the best I've had. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Mate, absolute pleasure. I'm excited. And because to get you on, I know you're super busy. You're helping so many amazing clients. You're really making a positive impact for so many people's lives. But yes, you've got the commercial background. Yes, you've got real estate background. But why did you get into real estate? Let's go back to those beginnings and how did that journey start?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started off as an investor myself quite young, right? So I bought my first property at the age of 19. So while friends and family were going off backpacking, I thought, look, I really want to slay this dragon nice and early. So that's where it all started. It was something I wanted to do, and then it grew from there.
Love it. And so what have been some of those milestones since buying your first property? Even that, right, at that young age, that would have been quite a daunting. Yes, seeing your friends going out and backpacking and partying and that kind of stuff, and you knuckling down and going, no, I'm going to make this happen. What have been some of those milestones and some key lessons since that first purchase?
Yeah, a lot of lessons along the way, Shorty. I'd be bending the truth if I sat here and said it was the plan all along from age 19. One of the key milestones was going through eventually renovating that property, right, and being able to add value to it, and then seeing the growth over a period of time and going, well, actually, real estate and compound growth really is the seventh or eighth wonder of the world. And then being able to leverage that asset into others and subsequent properties. And obviously you take stock of the ups and the downs. So when you have a setback, you look at that and go, why did that occur? Was it a decision that I could have taken differently? And just adjust your way for the next time.
Yeah, so true. So true. Hindsight's always an amazing thing. Now, absolutely. And so where are you at right now? Where is the business? What type of clients are you helping? What areas are you focusing on?
Yeah, great question. So the business is about 5 years old. So yes, my background is in corporate real estate, commercial property, but the bulk of what we're doing and supporting clients with is residential real estate. So circa 80% is in the owner-occupier space. So we're working with clients across Sydney's North Shore, Northern Beaches, Eastern Suburbs, Hills District. So very much that prestige market type client. And then in addition to helping them with their principal place of residence, we're also helping property investors secure their future by making strategic property investment.
I think it's a beautiful offering because sometimes people don't know that they could upgrade into their property. And so starting off with an investing process, and then these high net worth individuals that are time poor and professional based, your doctors, your lawyers, your things like your dentists, your things like that, where they're really honed in on their craft and their specialty, but they need someone like yourself to help them to go, yes, I need an investment, but hey, you know what? I think it's time to upgrade our home. Kids are growing or kids are leaving. We're changing our direction. And I think that's where, I guess, where you come into that mix of really help them and guide them with that transition and with those next steps. Would that be a fair call?
Certainly, Shorty. So a lot of the time when we are working with clients, and I guess I'll preface what I'm about to say by different people see a different value proposition in what we bring to the table. So for some, it is that they are time poor. For others, it's a lack of experience in the market. And for the next group, pardon me, for the next group, it could be risk mitigation. So from observations over the last few years, when we have worked with a client, let's say for a investment purchase, they see what we do. They know that they're in their corner, we get the results. But then when they are looking at upgrading the principal place of residence or buying a new, then they come back and have that conversation. And conversely, the other way around. So when we've helped with a client who has bought their principal place of residence by engaging our services, then they'll circle back in a couple of years and say, hey, we're now thinking we're ready for an investment property. So it works quite well.
Yeah, beautiful. And so you would have seen over the last 5 years a bunch of change obviously with the industry, but also the market as well. Let's go to the industry first. What have you noticed over those last 5 years are some of the key things that you've seen as changes that have had an impact?
So firstly, I guess from my side of the fence, the buyer's agency side of things, there has certainly been a very big influx of buyer's agents coming into the space. So that's been a clear observation. And even on the ground, when we're looking at properties and inspecting homes for clients, some markets more than others, you do see other buyer's agents who are there. So I feel that utilizing and engaging a buyer's agent is becoming more prominent and more accepted and leaning more towards becoming a norm. So that's positive because we're there to advocate for the consumer. We're also I'm noticing that there is at least a discussion around increased regulation and lifting of standards and barriers to entry to becoming a buyer's agent, but the industry overall as well. When there are, let's say, unruly or questionable practices, we are seeing the regulators step in and take action. We're seeing industry bodies also talk about stepping in and mitigating things proactively. So all of that's positive when we're trying to advocate for the consumer at the end.
So true. Spot on. I love it. I love it. Now, obviously, you've some beautiful places you've purchased over the years. And in those markets, in those areas, you would have seen some interesting changes within those markets. What have you noticed as some of those key changes in those markets over the last 4 to 5 years?
Especially of late, though, we've noticed that there's a bit of a shortage of quality properties, quality assets, especially along the prestige markets. So the buyers that we are getting in front of and I'm getting in front of are essentially saying, look, we are willing to pay a bit of a premium for turnkey properties. So these buyers of these properties are not necessarily wanting to get the transaction done and then spend a whole period of time, 12 months, 18 months, project managing a refurbishment of a kitchen, a bathroom, or other parts of the house. There's very much a desire, and there has been for quite some time, to pay a bit of a premium for a turnkey product. But we're also seeing that buyers who approach their purchase with a level of clarity, certainty, and preparedness are taking advantage of the market a lot sooner than those who are taking a semi-casual approach.
Certainty, clarity, and preparedness. Let's unpack those three things, because I think that is a game changer in relations to how you help people with that transition and with that transaction, because those three key areas, like there's required some coaching, there's required some mentoring, there's required sometimes some courageous conversations. How do you navigate your clients so they can tick off all those three key areas?
So there are times after listening to clients for a while, it becomes quite clear that they don't have a guiding compass. So they know that they want to buy a property, but other than that, they haven't really gone through, and to use your term, they haven't really unpacked what that looks like for them. So what they must have and what they're willing to compromise on. But also even things logistically. So there are times where they go, we like these three properties, they're all going to go for auction within an hour of one another, and we're going to auction. But what does that look like? So then we, or I step in and say, look, if there are properties here that we can try to secure, let's say before auction, let's put a strategy there to market test the price point of this particular property. So we want to make the process as simple as possible for them. And that's where the strategy element comes in, both in terms of how we approach it, but also fit for them, fit in terms of the property that we're looking at. So we try and ensure that there's, a level of ease to the day, and we remove any sort of complications and hurdles along the way. So sometimes the client themselves are in their own way and they don't really realize that. We try and make it as simple as we can.
I think that's gold, because that's so important, right? I look at it as almost they've got that tunnel that they want, but where your role is, you're coming in and expanding those blinkers, so to speak, and because you can foresee the potential risks, the potential downfalls, the potential blind spots, and that's where your expertise comes in to really help guide those clients to achieve what they want to achieve. And sometimes, as you said, they may not know all the exact of what they want to achieve, and I guess that's why you're the expert and they come to you. So love it.
Yeah, no, certainly. It's difficult, right? People live busy lives, they run busy households, and you look at it and go, I want X, Y, Z from a property, and your partner might look at it and go, I want A, B, C from the property. So how do we mesh that?
Sounds like my household.
I'd say it's quite common, right? So how do we mesh that together and say, what's common ground? What's a happy medium?
A side note, I remember early days dating my wife back then, and I threw the question out to her. I said to her, when we have kids, if you want a pink room and I want a blue room, what do we do? She goes, just have pink, don't we? I said, what? So why don't if we maybe choose a green or a brown? She goes, what's that? So that's called compromise, right? So it's what you do and how you specialize in making husband and wives or partners come in and actually have that compromisation, which is, I think, pretty huge. Moving forward in relations to those markets, and do you still see that supply still a challenge? Where do you see those key markets that you're focusing on over these next 6 to 12 months? I know we don't have a crystal ball, but
sure.
Based from the history, do you see any major changes, shifting at all?
So my observation is that there's a lot of psychology and emotion tied into our real estate market nationally here. And we are very much sort of a population base who responds to announcements of whether they're RBA interest rate rise announcements or rate reduction announcements. So we let that be the temperature gauge for when we bring a property to market or when we decide not to bring a property to market. So my general sentiment is at the moment, like I was saying earlier, there's a lack of quality properties that are there and available on the market for us to take our clients to. I tend to feel that at the moment, given where we are, we're early March now, most of the market was quite slow for January for obvious reasons, off the back of Christmas. And then we were waiting and seeing what would happen with the rate rise. So that's come and gone. So I tend to think there's another sort of element of watching to see what the RBA does next. But come the second half of the year, post 1 July, my gut feel is that we will start to see some confidence come back, irrespective of what the rate does. And then we'll see, again, the market stimulated some more.
Fantastic. I love it. Talk to me about business. Talk to me about projects. What's some exciting things that you've got coming up over, say, the next 6 to 12 months for you and for the business? What does that look like?
Yes, certainly. So the next 12 months are quite a big period ahead for us. So we're, like any other business, reviewing our tech stack and trying to implement some efficiencies in what we're doing. AI obviously is at the forefront of what everyone's doing. For me personally and for the business, that human experience is paramount. So we will never bring in a bit of technology that takes away from that. So for us, it's about how our technology complements what we're doing in the back end and have a positive effect for the clients that we're dealing with and clients who are engaging us. But we won't ever remove that human to human interaction, because just the feedback that we receive is the clients who do work with us very much like that service. So we provide almost like a private bank experience for the client base that we work with. Sorry, go ahead.
On. No, keep
I was
going.
going to say, additionally, we're also looking at rolling out our own podcast, actually, Shorty. We're just working through our positioning into the market at the moment. So very much the initial thoughts are to be education-led and providing a lot of insight to our client base. So there are a couple of things, very excited to unpack them over the next 12 months.
And I think for all the listeners, I would highly recommend follow George and his journey, because when that podcast drops, it's going to be a game changer. The info, the insights, markets, like pieces of education that, if you are an agent that you can share to your clients to make you look good, George is the man. He's going to be sharing all that insights on his podcast. So follow him on socials and he'll let you know when that starts dropping. So highly recommend it. Mate, on this show, we have our 60-second quiz to find out a little bit more about our guests. Are you willing to play?
Looking forward to it, Shorty.
Oh, here we go. All right. Favorite movie?
Casino Royale 007. Big Bond fan.
Yeah, game on. Favorite food?
Pizza, easy one.
What type?
Oh, I like, if I could have my pick, pepperoni, mushroom, olives.
Nice. Favorite holiday destination?
I'd have to say Hawaii.
Beautiful. Morning routine, what does that look like?
So I wake up quite early, so 5 o'clock, and I use that to get some of the hard work out of the way. So for me, that looks like a weights routine and then followed by 10,000 steps. So I get my walking in 10,000 steps in out of the way nice and early. And then it's about getting the kids off to school.
Nice. What about an evening routine? Do you have an evening routine?
Evening routine for me is about planning for the next day. So again, I have a quick look at what's coming up and just make sure that I'm calibrated right for the next day. So it's, that'd be
fantastic. And do you have a most embarrassing moment?
Yeah, I had to think about this one long and hard, but it's walking into a plate glass door. Yeah, it had to happen because I usually used to laugh at the people who walked into.
Of course.
So.
Love it. If you could choose 5 inspirational people to have dinner with, they could be dead or alive, who could they be?
I'd have to say Robin Sharma, the author, Michael Jordan, Elon Musk, Jerry Seinfeld, and Christopher Nolan.
What a cast. Do you have a biggest regret?
I really want to say walking into the plate glass door. But generally, no. I tend to think that there's a lesson in everything and we might not realize it in the heat of the moment, but when things cool off, for me personally, it's important to reflect that and try and take something away. No regrets.
Fantastic. If you were now Prime Minister for the day, what's one thing that you would change?
Interesting. So for me, I guess being a real estate person, it would be a real estate thing. So we talk a lot as a nation around supply issues and how we have a shortage of housing, which is obviously true. And we also talk about the older generation who are empty nesting. So I would bring in a change where if these people decide to downsize and sell their place, then there'd be no stamp duty payable for the subsequent purchase that they make. You'd obviously means test it some way, but having to have to pay taxes at an age where one may be in retirement might be a deterrent for the whole initiative. So you'd make it a bit easier for them, I think.
Great idea, great idea. And what would be your best piece of advice?
So best piece of advice for me, best piece of advice someone's given me would be, there are times where we can't control what a third party says or does, but we can control how that makes us feel or react. It can very much set the course for your mood and your temperament for a day. But if you pause, take a breath and see whether it should impact you and why it is, you may do yourself a favor. Yeah.
Great piece of advice. And how can the audience get in touch with you and follow your journey?
So Shorty, we've got our website, www.jameschase.com.au, and my email address is george@jameschase.com.au, and we're all on the usual social channels as well.
Fantastic. We'll put all those links into the show notes below. But George, we could be chatting for hours. Your insights and your expertise is phenomenal. And I really appreciate your time because I know you're super busy helping people all over the area. And so I just want to say thank you from my heart to yours of being on the show today.
Really appreciate you having me on, Shorty. I've been a fan for quite some time. So thank you for having me.